All right, good afternoon. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, is on his way back to New York from Geneva. This morning in Geneva, he called on the international community to face up to the devastating and complex issues of internal displacement as he opened the inaugural meeting of the new high-level panel on internal displacement. The Secretary General said it is unacceptable that millions of people are so brutally dislocated from their homes and then linger without solutions for years. Being displaced should not be an interminable problem, he said. The Secretary General expressed confidence that the high-level panel will bring fresh ideas to prevent forced displacement, better protect and assist displaced people, and identify swifter solutions to displacement. The Secretary General also met with young people at the Graduate Institute of Geneva as part of the global conversation on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of the UN. And the SG's remarks to the displacement panel have been shared with you. The Deputy Secretary General is in Zimbabwe, where today she spoke at the 6th session of the African Regional Forum for Sustainable Development. She said that 2020 is an opportunity for all of us to chart a different course and to kickstart the decade of action and deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. As we begin this exciting decade, she said, it is vital that we recognize the progress being made in Africa on multiple fronts. She said that Africa continues to have some of the world's fastest growing economies, and growth is projected to remain stable in 2020. And the proportion of people living in poverty in Africa is declining from 34.5% in 2015 to 32.5% in 2019. The Deputy Secretary General said that in Africa, as elsewhere, we need to accelerate the pace and scale of our collective action. Her remarks have been shared with you. And I know I had been asked, so I just wanted to let you know that the Secretary General has written to offer his condolences to the government of Egypt and to the family of former President Hosni Mubarak following his death that was announced today. The Secretary General, in a letter, wrote that President Mubarak played an important role in diplomatic efforts throughout the Middle East, including in promoting peace between Israelis and Palestinians and supporting the endeavors by the League of Arab States to end conflict in the region. The Secretary General reaffirmed the commitment of the UN to continue working alongside the government and people of Egypt in advancing the country's democratic development, respect for human rights, and economic prosperity for the benefit of all Egyptians. And turning to Syria, we remain alarmed about the safety and protection of over 3 million civilians in Idlib and surrounding areas in Syria, as reports of airstrikes and shelling continue to take a heavy toll on the civilian population. Reports indicate continued hostilities in many parts of northwest Syria, with airstrikes in at least 24 communities and shelling in communities in the last and shelling in 20 communities in the last 24 hours alone. 2 civilians were reportedly killed, 6 others reportedly injured in the overnight fighting. The latest estimate suggests that some 948,000 people have been displaced in northwest Syria since December 1st. That's an increase of some 73,000 from the previous week. Yesterday, the UN launched a revised humanitarian readiness and response plan for northwest Syria. The plan has been updated in response to the surge of needs of the people on the ground. It aims to reach at least 1.1 million people in need with humanitarian assistance at a total cost of $500 million. At the same time, we continue to seek improved access to people in need, including in conflict-affected areas. Discussions are underway with Turkey to increase the capacity of aid crossing of the border from 50 trucks a day to 100 trucks. The UN is also organizing assessment missions from within Syria to identify the needs of civilians that remain in former frontline areas. And the Office of Martin Griffiths, the Special Envoy for Yemen, is hosting a consultative meeting with a group of Yemeni public and political figures in Jordan. That will be on the 26th and 27th of February. That's tomorrow and Thursday. The meeting will bring together a diverse group of Yemeni stakeholders, both men and women, including members of some political parties and independent public figures. Discussions will focus on approaches to resume the official peace talks under the auspices of the UN. Participants will further engage in constructive dialogue about the ways to ensure that the peace process is inclusive and capable of bringing sustainable peace to Yemen. And I have an update on the locusts in East Africa. The Director General of the Food Agriculture Organization and the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, as well as the Executive Director of the World Food Program, today called on increased funding to deal with the swarms of locusts in the area. On the 20th of January, FAO called for $76 million to help combat this pest, but the resources to control the outbreak have been too slow in coming. Officials said that since then, the locusts continue their invasion throughout eastern Africa. The cost of action has doubled to $138 million. The World Food Program warned that the cost of responding to the impact of locusts to food and security alone will be at least 15 times higher than the cost of preventing the spread now. To date, $33 million has been received or committed. And on a slightly linked note, yesterday, James Swan, the Secretary General Special Representative in Somalia, told members of the Council that 2020 has the potential to be a transformative year for Somalia. He warned that while technical advances across political, security, economic, and humanitarian agendas have continued, these gains will quickly reach their limits without necessary political agreements. The special representative also said the worst locust outbreak Somalia has experienced in 25 years is adding to extreme humanitarian challenges faced by the country's most vulnerable. Mr. Swan concluded by saying he looks forward to Somalia's leaders taking the bold steps necessary to enable progress in this critical year. And just to flag that in Burkina Faso, some 300,000 people have been forced to flee their homes since December. As of today, nearly 766,000 people have been displaced. More than half of those inside the country, or 56%, have no adequate shelter or no shelter at all. This month, $10 million was allocated from the Central Emergency Fund to Burkina Faso to provide shelter, water and sanitation, protection and health services. However, the UN and our humanitarian partners are targeting 1.8 million people this year and are requesting $312 million. And just to flag that in Norway today, Prime Minister Solberg will gather a group of the Secretary General's Sustainable Development Goals advocates and UN representatives on Norwegian Arctic archipelago Svalbard to witness a new seed deposit to the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. The Seed Vault aims to preserve a wide variety of plant seeds that are duplicate samples or spare copies of seeds held in gene banks worldwide. It's also an attempt to ensure against the loss of seeds in other gene banks during large-scale regional or global crises. Ms. Solberg will be joined by the co-chair of the Sdg Advocate Group, President Akufo-Addo of Ghana, as well as by Agnes Kalibata, the Secretary General Special Envoy for the 2021 Food Systems Summit. The Prime Minister and her guests will have meetings relating to sustainable development and issue a call to action on food security, preservation of genetic diversity, and combating climate change in support of the Decade of Action to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. And the Universal Postal Union today welcomed the resumption of international postal exchanges between Qatar and Bahrain, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Post will be transiting through Oman between these destinations. The agreement follows a January 29th meeting of UPU's at UPU's headquarters in Bern, in Switzerland, between representatives of those countries and the Director General of UPU, Bishar Hussein. Lastly, we have now reached 54 in member states that are fully paid up. Anybody can guess who paid us today? Turkey. And we are very thankful to our friends in Ankara for having done so. This awkward silence means it's time for you to ask questions. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Samira Sadiq with Interpress Service. Does the Secretary General's office have any comments on the violent riots between Hindu and Muslims in Delhi, where 13 people have been killed and a mosque was vandalized earlier today?
I think it's very important that demonstrators be allowed and demonstrate peacefully, and that security forces show restraint. This is SG's constant position. Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
But are you monitoring the situation?
Yes,
as
we're
it's
obviously
going on?
following it. We're obviously following it closely. Yes, Evelyn.
Yes, the United Nations is trying to get more humanitarian aid into Syria. Do you know how the talks with Turkey are going?
Well, we're trying. We're in discussions with Turkey to expand the capacity of the number of trucks that will go through the crossings from about 50 a day to 100. And as you know, there will be a presentation soon, I believe. I have to check the exact date of the Secretary General's options for cross-border delivery, as he was requested to do so by the Security Council.
Is he supposed to give a report on that?
Yes, he is, and that it should be coming. It should be discussed in the council very soon. Yes.
Yeah, it's a continuation of that theme. Reuters had a story on Friday saying that in the SG's report, he suggests that the Tal Abyad crossing could be used as a kind of replacement to the Al Yarabia one that was closed. Just on that simple point, can you confirm that that's correct?
No. The report is, I mean, you know the procedures here. The reports go in advance copies to Security Council members. Somehow they find their way outside of that conclave. But until the report is presented, we're not going to comment on it. All right. Oh, go ahead.
So Universal Postal Union welcomed the resumption of mail services, but there are reports today that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is leading a push to resist efforts to open their airspace to Qatar. How does the SG feel about the airspace?
Well, I mean,
issue?
from the beginning, we have always hoped that the various members of the Gulf Cooperation Council could find a common way forward to get over the current hurdles, and we hope that dialogue will continue. Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Steph. I understood that when the Secretary General was in Geneva, he met with Gar Peterson, and that he also had a meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister.
Yes.
Can you
Sure,
tell us what was discussed at those meetings?
Mr. Pedersen updated him, obviously, on the status of the work he's been doing. The Secretary General, Mr. Lavrov, did meet. They spoke about a host of issues of mutual concern, as we like to say, and that obviously includes the situation in Syria. Yep.
Yeah, one more. There are reports coming out of Iran that one of the reasons they're really struggling with the coronavirus outbreak right now is because they've been under sanctions for so long and they don't have the right medical kits and equipment to be able to take the steps that are necessary. Are you watching this, and does the UN think that Iran has been over-sanctioned?
Look, WHO is in the lead in the contacts with the public health authorities in Iran. We very much hope that Iran, like all other countries that have been impacted by the coronavirus, will get the help that is necessary to help with our continued efforts at containment of the COVID-19 virus. All right. Thank you all.